Okay, we're starting a new set of halachas. We finished the laws of Shabbos last week, and we're starting the laws of Rosh Chodesh, and then the laws of Yom Tov that follow Rosh Chodesh. So Rosh Chodesh and the laws of Yom Tov. Tonight's class is in loving memory of my great uncle, Rav Moshe Ben Yonah Zitzal, sponsored by his grandson Dovi Jacobs. Okay, so let's.
Let's my uncle's yahrzeit tonight and tomorrow.
Oh, Mez Neshama have an aliyah.
Amen, amen.
What's his name?
I'm Yehuda Baruch ben Moshe Zelig.
The Baruch Moshe Zelig. Hashem Shav and Aliyah.
Amen.
Okay, let's get started. Hold on a second. Peter's a little slow today. Okay, you see the screen, Jonathan?
Right.
A second, let me see if you see the screen. Okay. Okay, let's let Aaron in. Okay. Okay, so we're learning the laws of Rosh Chodesh. And we're going to get to the details in a second. Okay. It says like this. So these are chapters 97, the laws of Rosh Chodesh and sanctification of the moon, which is Kiddush Chodesh. So this is we see that we bless the new moon. This week it's a good week because this week is Shabbos V'Varach in the month of El. So the Shabbos before we do the blessing for the new month, and then we bless the new moon in its appropriate time, as we're going to learn when that is. Each month as well. So those laws are discussed in this chapter. Okay, so he starts like this. Chapter 97, verse Halacha 1. Yesh nohagin, there is the custom. Lihis anois ve'erev Rosh Chodesh. There's those who have the custom to fast on Erev Rosh Chodesh. Erev Rosh Chodesh is the day that is leading up to Rosh Chodesh. Ve'omrem, and there's a special part that they say, which is called Seder Yom Kippur Katan. It's called the small Yom Kippur. We'll see why in a second, which is like the idea of Yom Kippur, which is the idea of repentance for the new moon. So he said, because the previous month you want to atone for all the sins, and there's forgiveness for all the sins, atonement for all the sins of the previous month. So we fast like we would fast on Yom Kippur. So it's called the small Yom Kippur, those who have the custom to fast on Erev Rosh Chodesh. Dumya de Seir Rosh Chodesh, the same effect that the he-goat, hold on, Aaron, the he-goat that they sacrificed in Rosh Chodesh, which was for Kapara. As we say, B'musav Zman Kapara Chol Taidasam. Part of the language of Rosh Chodesh is that it's a time of repentance. And he finishes off in the Pri Chadash that every person, according to the custom, if they should fast or shouldn't fast, depending on your custom, you should go with what's your custom. Yes, Aaron?
Every month they do it?
Yes. Every month on Rosh Chodesh. So if what today is Chav Gimel, so when's Rosh Chodesh fall out this week? Rosh Chodesh, 2 days always Rosh Chodesh is Elul. So it's let's see, I'll just bring up the calendar. This week, Rosh Chodesh is going to be on Thursday, Friday. So Erev Rosh Chodesh would be on Wednesday. So they would fast on Wednesday. It's a day fast, not a night fast, which means they fast the day leading up to Rosh Chodesh.
So what about the people who party? Like I go to a party a few days before.
He says that's why he finishes. Everyone according to their custom.
Okay.
Okay, so there's those who fast because it's a time of kapara. So let's see the footnote. He says over here, Magen Avram quotes, and the Bach Minhagim is quoted as saying the concept of fast. So these are the Ashkenazi commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch that bring the idea of fasting on the Erev Rosh Chodesh. The Pri Chadash says, because why do they fast? They say it's for forgiveness for all the sins committed in the past month. The Pri Chadash, Rav Moshe Kardivara, It is therefore called Yom Kippur Katan. Why is it called Yom Kippur Katan? Which means the small day of atonement. The order of prayer included various slichos and other repentance that we say that is for the custom, those who have the special, hold on a second. So those have the special slichos that we say and the different tachnuns that we say for the Erev Rosh Chodesh. Okay. And it's linked to the seir, which is the he-goat, he says, is that Julian? Was brought as a sin offering every Rosh Chodesh. So we see that Rosh Chodesh is a time of kapara, a time of atonement, and that's why we have the special sacrifice for the sins. And therefore, it's a time to kind of, just like Erev Rosh Hashanah, it's like the Elul of every month. Like, right, we have Elul, we're just getting into the month of El now. We go in, it's a month of valuation and a certain level of atonement. So this all is connected to, this is all connected to Erev Rosh Chodesh for a small repentance for the new month, which is like Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. Okay. Now, this is now what Aaron was talking about. But Aaron, I think you were talking about this, not what about Erev Rosh Chodesh. You're talking about mitzvah laharbes b'seuda b'Rosh Chodesh. It's customary to have an elaborate meal on Rosh Chodesh, but that's on Rosh Chodesh. Here we're talking about before Rosh Chodesh. V'im chol b'Shabbos. What happens if Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos? And that could happen. It happens. So Yasa, and in Shabbos anyways, what's the point? The point is Shabbos anyways, you have an elaborate meal. So Yasa tavshel echad yosim mi b'shar Shabbos. You should try to make something unique, connected specifically to Rosh Chodesh, even on Shabbos. So let's say you have a certain usual foods that you have on Shabbos, and most people have something that's unique that you wouldn't have on a regular Shabbos. You should have this Shabbos because it is a Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. So I think, Aaron, is that what you were talking about?
You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you hear me okay? By the way, are you hearing me okay?
Great.
Okay.
My point is that there's a elder couple, and they a day or two before Rosh Chodesh invite all the Jewish people to their house. We listen to music. She has a fancy meal with all kinds of food on the table that we can take what we want and just meet people.
That's wonderful. That's a wonderful, wonderful custom. I've never heard of that custom before. It doesn't mean it's not a custom. It's a wonderful custom. That said, here what we've seen so far is the idea of fasting on Erev Rosh Chodesh and making a special meal on Rosh Chodesh. And if it's even Shabbos, to have something unique that you wouldn't have on a regular Shabbos in honor of Rosh Chodesh. Okay, so that's how we have it over. That's how it says it here. But it could be everyone. He says everyone according to their custom. So this is the custom that we're talking about here. Okay, he continues. Rosh Chodesh muter b'asiyah malacha. It's not forbidden to do work on Rosh Chodesh. It's permitted to do work on Rosh Chodesh. However, he puts, women do not do work if they can on Rosh Chodesh. So if you want to give your wife a day off, make dinner. If you're not always the one making dinner, Rosh Chodesh is a good day. If you should do it more often, not just once a month, but one of the good days to do it would be on Rosh Chodesh, because it's a day that women should rest from work. And the Kitzur continues, uminag haganhu ve'ein lahakalem. It's a proper custom, and one should not make it light of it. Means that if you say, oh, it's just, it's not, and even here now today, Yerushalayim, they started a thing recently, at least I've seen it recently, that like women get together here in Yerushalayim on Rosh Chodesh, and they do a special Hallel with music just for women in a way of modesty. But it's a day that women shouldn't have to work. And here in Yerushalayim also, you should know, by the way, the custom is obviously I haven't seen it outside Eretz Yisrael. The kids have a half day yeshiva or school on Rosh Chodesh. It's like kind of a day that's a little bit off, so it's a little bit less work. I'm not sure here. It doesn't say that the men don't work. It says the women don't work. And by having the kids come home early makes it more difficult if the woman's at home. But that's another story. Okay, so footnote number 5, he says like this. He's talking about, I think, the woman. Yes. So he writes in footnote number 5, the Bir Halacha says it is forbidden for women to do malacha on Rosh Chodesh in the manner they do every day. That the woman, he says the word forbidden. if they're quoting the translation, it's obviously a translation, correctly, the word forbidden, asr, is a strong language. Not that it's a good custom that they should not do work, but it makes it asr. They should, in the same way they do on a regular day. Each woman must choose for herself at least one malacha she will not do on Rosh Chodesh. So if there's something that a woman does every day, a woman should take one thing and say, today I'm not doing that. Whatever it is, every woman knows what they do with their schedule. A lot of women today are equally working in the office as men, or sometimes you have stay-home dads, all kind of types of different things in different places. But this is talking about the halacha, and the halacha is a woman should try not to work on Rosh Chodesh, and at least to take one thing off their schedule. So if they have scheduled works, I don't know if you could do it in your office, in your job, and you imagine you came to your boss and you said, well, it's Rosh Chodesh today, so I'm not going to do, I'm not going to take care of those files for you because it's Rosh Chodesh. Whatever it is, I don't know if that's what we're talking about. It could be something at home, whether it will be, washing dishes, making dinner, washing laundry, certain things that you may have a schedule in. If that's the thing that you do regularly, to take one off. Again, each person knows what their schedule is and what their work is, and they can know what it is they could take a break from when it comes to Rosh Chodesh. So we see something over here that's very important, very interesting. That is that they're taking it seriously. It's not like just something that's like a casual, woman having a custom not to work. The Bir Halacha says specifically, he uses the word forbidden and says, find something that you do typically and do not do it on Rosh Chodesh as a sign of a day of rest. Yes, Ar.
If the woman takes off and doesn't do it, does the man have to pick up the slack for that activity?
That would make sense. I think so. If you're asking, then I'm telling you. It doesn't mean to leave the dishes in the sink and do the work double tomorrow. That's not really resting. That's just diverting the job, right? If someone usually does laundry and you don't do the laundry today, so then you're gonna have to do it tomorrow. It's not really like you're just pushing it off. The idea is also like that should be a full rest. And so if you come home and you take that job on, whatever that job is that you discussed that she wants to take off, that will really make it a day of rest as opposed to just pushing it to tomorrow. Okay, now we're going to get to the complicated law. Why is it complicated? Oh, happy Rebecca came to join because she inspired us to learn this Rosh Chodesh. Hey Rebecca, I'm happy you joined. I was wondering, you're the one inspiration that we're continuing with the laws of Rosh Chodesh and Yom Tov. So you just missed law number 3, which talks about the women have an obligation. He uses the word even is forbidden for them to work the way they would regularly work on Rosh Chodesh. And he finishes off over here again. I'm just going to read for number 5 for you, Rebecca. The Bir Halacha says, forbidden for a woman to do malach on Rosh Chodesh in the manner they do every day. Each woman must choose for herself at least one malacha she will not do on Rosh Chodesh. If anyone has actually, I have checked into the background of this minhag, meaning when I say the background of this minhag, I mean what's the reason why women take off on Rosh Chodesh? Please share. Rebecca, have you checked into that ever? Or anyone? Any of the ladies checked into?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Why do women not do work on Rosh Chodesh?
Is there a reason for that minhag? Has anyone checked into why women
I
specifically?
remember learning about it, but I don't remember the exact details, so I need to
Check. Okay.
look into it again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to get to the complicated. Again, my computer seems a little fuzzy, so if you're feeling that the voiceover is not great or it's breaking, let me know. Please let me know. Okay, now we're going to get to the complicated laws of Halal. Because why do I say complicated? Because usually Halal is straightforward, but the only time Halal is not really straightforward is Rosh Chodesh, because there's various different customs of how we say Halal on Rosh Chodesh, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, etc. Chabad. Okay, so I actually printed up the Chabad Siddur that we're going to get to after we finish the next 2 laws to see what Chabad's customs are, because even Chabad's customs are not clear. Halal tzarich la'omrei ba'amidav lo yafsik boi. Halal should be said standing and without interruption. You can't be in the middle of Halal and start talking or doing other things. Halal has to be said like a complete thing, complete saying, and don't make any interruptions in between. And you should say Halal standing, number 1. You should try to say Halal with the congregation. We're going to see why. because again, everyone agrees we only say half Hallel on Rosh Chodesh. The question is about the blessings, and the question is on what level, if it's just a minig mamish, or if we say it with a blessing. Ashkenazim, you'll see say it all say it with a blessing. Sephardim don't say it with a blessing. Chabad has the Chazan say the blessing. So there's different customs. So it says over here, but first of all, try to say it with the minyan. Therefore, there's a point to that. If you walk into synagogue and they're holding halal, and you're not holding halal, if you would just usually do your routine, you would just start davening and catch up eventually. But now you're coming into shul, and the minyan is holding halal, and it's Rosh Chodesh. So wait to continue to say what, because halal is its own prayer. Yomer Hali Metziber, first say Hallel with the congregation, and this applies to women coming to shul. Sometimes a woman will come to shul on Shabbos or Shabbos Rosh Chodesh or on Rosh Chodesh. Say Hallel with the congregation, v'achkach yispal, and later catch up to where you have to daven. Yes, Aaron.
If there are shuls that are minions after minions after minions, so you come in a little early, and they're saying Hala, do you say it or wait until your turn is?
No. That's an excellent question. Thank you. But first of all, there's a lot of laws when it comes to these. We call them factory minyanim. I mean factory is because it's just like you said. There's a minyan finishes, a minyan ends. There's a shul over here called Shtiblach that has a little screen, and they do Ma'ariv every night, every 15 minutes exactly. So you miss this, you wait 15 minutes, you know exactly for 9:45, 10 o'clock, 10:15, 10:30. So if you're coming to daven at another minyan, and you come early, like you said, to prepare for your minyan, and they're holding halal, no, you should not say halal with that minyan, because you're going to daven with your minyan, and you're going to say halal with your minyan. Here we're talking about you coming to the minyan, meaning to say this is the minyan that you have. There's no other minyan. You're behind. In a normal situation, you would want to catch up. Here he's saying, no, don't catch up. Say halal with the minyan. Although everyone, there's no one who says halal before Shemona Esrei. So you're obviously coming at the end of the davening, or towards the end of the davening. But on Shabbos, there's some. That's why I say Shabbos is more common, because in the week halal is really at the end of the davening, right before Kriya and Musaf. But in a Shabbos, you could have the whole Kriya and the whole speech and the Kiddush and all that. So it's very likely a person will come when the minyan's holding halal, and usually you would just sit down and start davening and catch up. So the halacha is no, first daven halal with the minyan. But in the case, Aaron, very good question, but you're coming to a minyan that has another minyan afterwards, and that's the minyan you plan on davening with, there's no need for you to say minyan halal with the minyan, because you're going to be saying halal with your minyan. Okay. Now he continues. Let's say you're davening slow or what have you. You're just not in the same place with the minyan. You're holding Psukkah de Zimra. What is Psukkah de Zimra? From Hodu to Elas Yashir. Means you didn't make it to Yishtabach. You didn't say the final blessing of completing the Psukkah de Zimra, the parts of praise before the blessings of Shema. And Yikra Halal Imatzibur, then you should again say Halal with the congregation. This is according to Minig Ashkenaz, where you do make a bracha on halal, even on Rosh Chodesh, even when it's a half halal. You shouldn't make the blessing in this case. If you're saying halal while you're holding Psukkah de Zimra, why not? Again, so we're breaking down many scenarios. Maybe we should make a flowchart for next week. But we have like this. In this case, we're talking about if you walk into shul and you're behind, and the minyan's about to say halal, you didn't start davening yet. You put on your stuff and you join halal. In that case, you would say the blessings before and after, because halal is its own prayer, and you're saying halal with the minyan. Here, there's a unique situation. Why? You're middle of davening. You're holding Psukkah de Zimra, meaning between Hodu, Baruch Sha'amar, and Az Yashir. You already said Baruch Sha'amar, and you didn't say Yishtabach yet. So you say halal, you interrupt where you're holding. So that's how important it is to say halal with the minyan. However, this case, you don't make the blessings before and afterwards. Why? He says, Ki brichas baruch sha'amar, brichas yishtabach olu le'gam lahalal. The blessings that you made, the first blessing that you made already, which is baruch sha'amar, and the blessing you're going to make in yishtabach, that will be the blessing in the end that will include in it, because also parts of Psukkah de Zimra are parts of Tilim, also songs of praise. this is added to it, and therefore you don't make a blessing. So we have so far three scenarios. One scenario is the regular person, meaning it's called the regular person, the person who's with the minyan. This is again minhag Ashkenaz. We're going to get to the other minhagim. You would say you would be with the chazan, you're holding with. So when it comes to halal, you say the bracha before, the bracha after. That's regular. You're holding. The second scenario is you come early, you come late to the minyan, and by the time you come in, they're about to say halal. So then again, you make the blessings before and afterwards. You don't daven, you say halal, and then you catch up. Third scenario is you're middle of davening, but you're holding Psukkah de Zimra. You haven't said Yishtabach yet, means you haven't started the Birchas Karishma. So then you would say, you would interrupt your Psukkah de Zimra, say halal, but in this case, you don't make a blessing before and afterwards, even if you're from Nusach Ashkenaz, because the Yishtabach and the Baruch Shamar would count as your blessings. So he says now, this only applies, meaning that you could interrupt Psukkah de Zimra for halal, is only the Rosh Chodesh halal. When we're saying halal b'dilug, you're not saying a full halal. We're missing out parts of halal. So to reply to chol hamoed, chol hamoed also, we say half halal. That applies to Sukkot as well. And Pesach, of course. And also, Yom Achrim Shel Pesach, the second days of Pesach, we also only say half halal. So if you come to Shul, in middle of the minions you're holding Psukkah de Zimra, and it's either Yom Tif of second day's Yom Tif of Pesach, Chol Hamoed, Sukkot or Pesach, or Rosh Chodesh, you interrupt Psukkah de Zimra, don't make a blessing before and afterwards, and join halal with the minion because it's a half halal. But when we say a full halal, which would be other days that we say the full halal, I think even Chanukah, I believe Chanukah also we say the full halal, right? So, and then we have also the first days of Sukkot and the last days of Sukkot, etc. You can't make the interruption. We'll explain why. If you have halal, and now let's say you're not davening with a minyan. You're just whatever. You're not davening with a minyan. That's just what happens. And you're saying halal as an individual. Try to say if there's other two people there, even if they're not saying halal with you, you should say loud to them the parts that say the hodu, the small hodu, because it's called the large hodu is chapter 128, I think it is. The 26 hodus. This is only 4 hodus. So you say hodu Lashem, so they should answer hodu Lashem kitov kilam chaz. The Kivin Shomer Hodu Mashmish Yomer Lachem. Hodu Lashem is like you can't even initiating, others should praise. So if you have others standing there, get them to answer. That I've never seen that done before, but that's what he brings down. I've never seen it myself, but that's what he brings down in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch.
Rabbi, quick question. Going back to the previous point about V'chim b'chol hamoed v'yom achronim shel Pesach. On Chol Hamoed Sukkos, don't we say full halal on Chol Hamoed Sukkos? Or are you just referring to Chol Hamoed Pesach? Because isn't that the distinction between Chol Hamoed Sukkos and Chol Hamoed Pesach?
Oh, now you got me. If I'm not mistaken, we never say full halal on Chol Hamoed, but let me just make sure that you're right. That you could be right. Let's see. Elu Yomim Shagarim Masahal. These are the days we finished the halal. Beis Yomim Ubeis Lailas Rishon Shal Pesach. Okay, so the first days and night of Pesach we say full halal. Beis Yomim Shal Shavuos, the 2 days of Shavuos. Tes Yomim Shal Chag Sukkos. You're right. We say the full halal.
Yeah, for all the days. Right.
Okay, you're right. With Shmini Atzeres. Ches Yomim the Chanukah we say full halal. The siman is it's very small writing. V'betach I think. I'm going to get to this in a second. I want to show this to you inside. But either way, yes, you're right. Sorry about that. My mistake. So he says, let's see the footnote over here on this. And maybe he has some addition to why he said just Chol Hamoed. Okay, I just read it wrong. Is one sentence, not two separate. It's not a comma in between the Chol Hamoed of Pesach and the second days of Pesach. But you're right. Chol Hamoed, sorry. Good. Thank you, Elon, for catching that. Okay. Now he says, what about halal in the house of a mourner? Rahman al-Islam. Well, let's check later in Reish Zayin in 207. Okay, let's see the footnotes over here. And then I want to do one more law before I bring up what I want to bring up. Okay, so we have over here 6. It's talking about you should try to say it with the congregation if you walk in the shul late. According to the Rif, the bracha of halal is said on Rosh Chodesh only when it is said with a minyan, a quorum of 10 adult men. Okay. Again, this time I'm saying there's a lot of customs. So he doesn't say, if I'm just learning that, you have to remember something. I always say this about people's sometimes mistake about how they approach the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is not like a short version of the law that there are things that are missing. He's very exact. He just put it in a Kitzur. So he doesn't make this differentiation. If you open up Law 4 that we just read, so he's not making it saying a Chiddush. It's matter of fact that we always say a bracha. Again, that's Ashkenazim. Sephardim do not say a bracha. So we automatically they say a bracha. And the question is, the only time we don't say a bracha, he says, is if you're saying it in Psukei de Zimra. And then he says that, it doesn't mention when he says over here, it doesn't say we don't make a bracha. But here in footnote number 6, he quotes the Rif that the bracha of halal is said on Rosh Chodesh only when it is said with a minyan, a quorum of 10 adults, which seems according to the Siddur, that would be the Chabad minhag. Okay, so that's 6. 7. This is from Hodu until Az Yashir, according to Nusach Sfard, from Mizmar Lesoda until after Az Yashir. So he's meaning to say the Nusach Sfard has Baruch She'amar after Hodu, because we need to be in between brachas. Nusach Ashkenaz, we have Baruch She'amar before Hodu. Okay. Footnote number 8. But when the entire halal is recited, it cannot be done, and he explains why. For then you must make a bracha on halal, according to all the poskim. For it is an obligation, not a custom. So it's not a minhag to say halal when we say a full halal, and that would include, thank you, Ilan, all the days of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, all the days of Hanukkah, all the days of Shavuos, the first 2 days and nights of Pesach, where we say the full halal, and then you can't just cut in between. If you're holding Sukkot de Zimra, you will not stop, and you'll wait till you get to the halal when you have to say it in the proper time. Now, he says, if you're alone, I think that's what we're holding, try to say the Hoidu in the presence of 2 people. But you do not have to try to find them if they are not in front of you. The Mishnah Berurah Eliyahu Rabbah means if you have 2 people around you, then you say the Hodu so they should answer. Again, it could be just that it's a lazy custom. I just never seen it. Okay. If anyone else has seen it, let me know. Please add in. Okay, let's just again. If you when I say it's complicated, if you today Rosh Chodesh, the Chabad minhag, as I'm going to show you in a second in the Siddur, is similar to what the Rif says, which is that the Chazan says the bracha, and the congregation does not say the bracha. Minhag Ashkenaz is everyone says the bracha. Sorry, Aaron, 1 second. And minhag Sfard is no one says the bracha, not even Chazan. They just start saying Haluka. If I daven in an Ashkenazi in a Sephardi shul usually in the mornings in the week, and it's actually not one of the things I like is Rosh Chodesh. Why? Because they literally say Rosh Chodesh, they say Halal like one would say Hayom Yom. You know, it's quickly read, Hod Lashem Kitov, finished, no songs, no singing, just quick. It's said very, very like a custom versus being said like a song. If I'm there on Hanukkah, when it's a full holiday, daven it nicely. But if next door to the shul there's an Ashkenazi minyan, there they say the Halal with the songs and everything on Rosh Chodesh. So again, there's different customs. Some people nowadays there's a shul across the street from me that also, I said the women have together, groups that get together to say Halal with music. Across the street from me, there's a minyan Beis Hashem that is very lively with bands and people coming to play music on Halal. But if you're going to your regular working Sephardi minyan, you're going to find maybe if you're a person who likes to say Halal and sing Halal, you may be a bit disappointed because they say, at least the few places that I've been, because that's their custom. They don't make a bracha at all. Is to kind of really say it fast as opposed to saying it like you would say it with the music and all. Yes, Aaron.
Okay, when you have the custom to say it with 10 men, do you just skip it if you had to pray alone for some reason?
Say that again.
Okay, when you have to do the certain prayers with 10 men, would you just skip that halal?
No, you would say, everyone says you would say Halal. The thing is that would you say Halal with a blessing or not? The Rif says the rif, he quotes the rif over here, that you would only say a bracha when there's a minyan, but there's no minyan, that even according to the minhag that you have to say a bracha before. The Ashka, at least the Sephardic minyan, even the Chazan doesn't say a bracha. Ashkenazim, everyone says a bracha. In Chabad, the Chazan says a bracha, which seems to be what the rif says over here. Okay, but you definitely say the hal either way. It's a custom to say hal. We're going to circle back to this in a second, min Chabad. La'achar halal, okay, this also gets tricky. After the halal, so we say the complete Kaddish Shalom. Moitzim Sefer Torah, we bring out the Sefer Torah. V'koran Arab, and we call up 4 people for the reading. So on a regular Thursday and Monday and Shabbos afternoon, Mincha, we have 3 people called up. Rosh Chodesh, we have an addition. We have 4 people called up. Akoyin Koirish Shloisha Psukim. Again, there's different minhagim how they read the reading of Rosh Chodesh, but this is what he brings in Kitzur. The first Kohen, the Kohen's the first reading, is Veidaber Tzav Marta, the first 3 verses. Levi, Chosev V'korav Marta. So you say verse number 1, verse number 2, verse number 3. Levi goes back to number 2, 3. V'korav Sekevas Achad V'asir Sa'ifa. Okay, we open up the Siddur, you'll see the reading. So it's 4 readings. We break up the tzav. So the first part of it is the tzav of Bnei Yisrael is the part of the Tamid sacrifice, and then we add it to the Rosh Chodesh sacrifice. So we read the whole part of the portion, and it's a small portion, so we break it up. The first 3 verses for the Kohen. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th is for the Levite, and we read for the Yisrael, and the final one is the Rosh Chodesh sacrifice. Okay, let's see 10, and then I want to show you a few things, because you say like this. On a day when there is Musaf service, okay, now this is where it gets complicated. On a day when not every time we have Halal do we have Musaf. Musaf, the word Musaf it means addition. The additional prayer that we have on Shabbos, every Shabbos has a Musaf, every Rosh Chodesh has Musaf, every holiday, even Chol Hamoed, has Musaf. Why? Because in temple, we sacrifice an addition. What's called Musaf? It's the additional sacrifice to the daily sacrifice.
Leaving Isaac.
Hold on, Aaron. You're
Oh.
So we have every day we have the morning and afternoon sacrifice called the Tamid sacrifice. After the morning's Tamid sacrifice is when the Musaf sacrifice is sacrificed, which is the special sacrifice for the holiday in question, in this case, Rosh Chodesh. Hanukkah is a rabbinic holiday. It's not a biblical holiday. All the Musaf sacrifices are mentioned in the Torah. The Musaf sacrifice, there is no Musaf sacrifice for Hanukkah. It's a holiday that's rabbinic. Nevertheless, they gave it the full halal. So you have the full halal, and you don't have Musaf, right? We don't say Musaf on Hanukkah. So he says like this: after halal, we say Kaddish Shalom. So he says like this: on a day when there is a Musaf service, the whole Kaddish is said after halal because halal marks the completion of Shacharis morning prayer, and that's why Shalom is it finishes off, and now we have to get ready for the next sacrifice, which is the next prayer, which is the Musaf. Therefore, on Hanukkah, there is no Musaf sacrifice. Only a half Kaddish is said after Halal. So you have to remember this if you're the Chazan. If you're the Chazan, usually after Rosh Chodesh or after Chol Hamoed, you would say the Kaddish Shalom. Here you don't say the Kaddish Shalom. Why? Because it's Chanukah and there's no Musaf. So therefore you only say the half Kaddish. It's said after Halal, as there is no Musaf service to be added to the Chanukah davening. So therefore we don't say the Kaddish Shalom there. When do we say the Kaddish Shalom? After Uva L'Tzion, which is when you finish off the davening. Okay. Repeats the verse of Yamarta. Okay, let's see. Now he explains why. The reason why do we say the first 3 verses for a Kohen, and then we say the 3rd verse again for the Levite? The reason for this is because the last 3 verses must be read. The reason for this is as at least 3 verses must be read for each aliyah. That's the rule. You can't read less than 3 verses. And also, we must not stop less than 3 verses before the end of a parsha, of a section. the parsha of Tamid, which is the morning sacrifice, the daily sacrifice, the first parsha read in Rosh Chodesh, has only 8 verses, right? So you can't get 3 aliyahs in 8 verses because you need 9 aliyahs. You need 9 verses, and therefore, in order to divide it into 3 aliyahs, some repetition is required. The parsha, sorry, I think it's 11. The parsha of Rosh Chodesh cannot be divided into 2 aliyahs because it only has 5 verses. Repetition cannot be used there because we must not start less than 3 verses in a parsha, nor stop less than 3 verses before the end of the parsha. So therefore, basically, in the technical laws of reading, we must have the only place to repeat would be in the first aliyah. The second aliyah. Second aliyah repeats 1 verse from the first aliyah. Aaron, your hand is up. Are you looking to ask a question? Okay. The first person reads over Rosh Chodesh. Gaonim Shulchan Aruch 432. But in Eretz Yisrael, the opinion of the Gra is widely accepted. He says that the Kohen reads the first 3 verses. The Levi reads the last 5. The third person repeats the last 3 verses read by the Levi, plus the 2 verses about Shabbos. And the fourth person reads the verses of about Rosh Chodesh. That's why I've seen the custom differently. So now I'm seeing why. It's because that's the minhag of the Gra and the minhag of Eretz Yisrael. So the minhag, where let's say minhag Chabad, and that's what most people do, is first 3, then the third, fourth, and fifth, and then 6th, 7th, and 8th for the first 3 aliyahs. The minhag of Yerushalayim of Eretz Yisrael is based on the Gra, that he says the first one, the Kohen reads the first 3 verses, the Levite reads the next 5, so you have 2, 3, and 5, so there's no problem. The third aliyah will read the Levi reads the last 5. The third person will read the 3 verses read by the Levi. Repeat the last 3 verses read by Levi plus the 2 verses of Shabbos, and then the fourth person is Rosh Chodesh. Okay, that's the custom. I've seen that done here in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, the reason I printed up this over here, let's see if it's going to come up. Okay, is I wanted to share, if I can, the minhag of, hold on a second, let's try to bring this down here. The minhag of, so let me make it smaller, of Chabad. So here it says in the Chabad Siddur, I took a screenshot of the Chabad Siddur. So here it says like this. This is again Ilan, thank you. It says, Elu Yom Shegarim B'Mizhal. These are the days we complete Halal. B'chutz La'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael. Beis Yom Tovim Beis Lailas Rishon Shel Pesach. He says chutz la'aretz because in Eretz Yisrael we only have 1 day of Pesach. So 2 days and 2 nights of Pesach. And on top of that, he adds 2 days of Shavuos. Okay, and again, Eretz Yisrael, that's 1 day. Tes Yimei the Sukkos, the 9 days of Sukkos, meaning Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah included. Ches Yom the Chanukah, the 8 days of Chanukah. And the simon is Babatach, okay, the Betach. Ubiyom she'ein garmis halal, but how he says, but what about when you don't say halal, a full halal, meaning a half halal, which would include Rosh Chodesh, Chol Hamoed Pesach, 2nd days of Pesach. Yesh lin hoig, he says the Alter Rebbe writes, this is from the Alter Rebbe Siddur. So we know that the Alter Rebbe Siddur is usually the final word. Yesh lin hoig, shahashliach tibur levadi yivach b'tchila b'soif, that the Chazan is the one who makes the blessing in the beginning and the end. Bakahal ya'anu amen v'yaytze b'brachasa. And then the kahal says amen, and is yotze with the bracha. Now, the rif that we brought down says that the chazan, only when there's a minyan does the chazan make the bracha. But from here, from the Alter Rebbe, it's mashma, that if you're davening with a minyan, then the chazan would make the bracha. And if you're not davening with a minyan and there's no chazan, you make the bracha. So it's not exactly like the rif. But then if you go down to the bottom over here, if I can, where we have the minhagim, and some of these are based on the minhagim or ideas from the Rebbe, he says, if I can, I'm going to put it over here, he says like this. Noigin, the custom is, Ashar mispal b'yachim nivar tchila v'soif gam yom she'en goyim b'msal. That the custom nevertheless is, even though the Alter Rebbe writes in the Siddur, and usually the Alter Rebbe is in the Siddur is the final word, but it's brought down in Sefer Minhagim that nevertheless, even an individual davening with the minyan should say the bracha even in a half Hallel. And he brings down from the Rebbe's talks in 1981, try to not be with the minyan in the beginning and daven quickly and make the bracha quietly. So it's one of these unwritten rules. A lot of people till today, debate this custom, but that's the custom that the Rebbe writes in Sefer Minhagim. So that's what to us is the final word, is that we do make a bracha even on a half Hallel, even with a minyan. So then if we put together all the customs we've had so far, besides the reading different customs, we have the Sephardic custom that no one makes a bracha. We have the rif that says if there's a minyan that only only with the minyan and when there's a minyan only the chazan makes a bracha. Seemingly, I'm not looking at the lashon of the rif, but as it's quoted in the footnote in the English, seems to say that if there's no minyan, then you don't make a bracha, but you make a bracha only if there's a minyan in the chazan. Minyan Chabad, where the Alter Rebbe writes in the Siddur, where if you're davening with the chazan, then you're yoysi with the chazan. But if you're davening as an individual, you do make a bracha, so it's not exactly like the rif. And then he brings down in Sefer Minhagim, and from the Rebbe's talks of 1981, that even if you're davening with them and you make a bracha, and that's what people do in Lubavitch today. Okay, so if anyone's wondering. Now, at the end, let's see the end over here. So he says, like this. It doesn't give me the opportunity to flax all my settings. Hold on a second. So it says like this. First of all, Chabad has the custom after we finish the Hallel. This is not in other customs. We say this little section of Avram Zaken Ba V'Yam V'Shem Baruch Avram Bakol, and then we mention Zvad Yishmerenu V'Chayenu Ken Yirasim Lefnecha Elikim Chayim Melech Olam Hashem Nefesh Kol Chay Amen, and we say that 3 times. We say that Avram Zaken Ba V'Yam 3 times on Rosh Chodesh. That's a minhag Chabad. Again, over here, he says over here, he brings down what's Chabad's custom when it comes to how do we complete, what do we do after Hallel? So he says over here, and from the Alter Rebbe, he writes on Rosh Chodesh and Yom Tov and Chol HaMoed, missing out Chanukah, we say Kiddush Shalom, which, like he says in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, we say the complete shab, the full Kaddish. Why? Because, like he explained, these are days of Korban Musaf. So we finish the Shachris and we're starting Musaf. And Chanukah, where there is no Korban Musaf, we say Chatzi Kaddish, and we say the Kaddish Shalom after Uval Tzion. He says over here, what is the custom in Chabad? You'll see the custom is, and again, there's different customs. So Chabad gets if you're davening a non-Chabad minyan, Hallel Rosh Chodesh is a complicated day. Why? 2 reasons. Number one is we put on 2 pairs of tefillin. We put on Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, and we try to put on Rabbeinu Tam before Musaf. So if you're davening in a minyan that doesn't put on Rabbeinu Tam, so you'll have another problem. So you don't have when you put on Rabbeinu Tam. Also, you have to be careful we don't take off our tefillin in shul. So you have to kind of try to figure out when to take off your tefillin. Also, preferably it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. You shouldn't be taking off and wrapping your tefillin during Chazaras Hashatz. So that says clearly, do not do that. It's not you're not supposed to be taking off your tefillin and wrapping your tefillin during the repetition of the Shemona Esrei. So if you want to do it in the repetition of the Shemona Esrei, meaning after Shachris, and also there's no makar, there's no source that says you should say Hallel on Rabbeinu Tam. So in a regular Chabad minyan, if you daven a Chabad minyan, you have time. You would daven Shachris in your Rashi. We would finish Hallel, and we're going to see in a second after Hallel, Chabad says Hayom Yom, and then Baruch Nafshi said before Kriya. Most people say Baruch Nafshi later and Hayom Yom later. They go straight after Hallel to Kriya. In Chabad, we don't go to Kriya. First we say Hayom Yom, and then we say Baruch Nafshi, and then we do Kriya. And comes Elul, we have on Shabbos, on Rosh Chodesh, we have to say Hayom Yom, Baruch Nafshi, and LeDavid. This week, right? This coming week when we do Rosh Chodesh, so we have more to say. The rest of the other shuls don't say that at that time. Then we have Kriya, and after Kriya, we take off our tefillin before Musaf, because we say Keser. and we're not supposed to be wearing tefillin when we say keser, which is crowning, because he shouldn't be wearing a crown, which is tefillin, when we say the keser tefillah, which is the musaf kedusha of musaf. So we have to already have our tefillin off by the Shemona Esrei. So what would a regular Chabad minyan after Volitzion, you would take off your Rashis, put in your Rebbeinu Tams, take off your Rebbeinu Tams, and then daven musaf with the minyan without your tefillin. But if you're joining other people's minyanim in non-Nusach Chabad, you have to figure out when to do all that, and what's. I'm not going to be the posek to say when to do it, but I'm saying there's nowhere that it says you should daven halal in Rebbeinu Tam. It doesn't say you shouldn't, but I'm saying it doesn't say anywhere that you should. So the question, or what's better, to daven musaf with the minyan and do Rebbeinu Tams later? These are all questions that you have to ask your local rabbi. Okay, so over there he says on the bottom like this: Rosh Chodesh Yom Tiv Eichol Amad Oimim Kan Shir Shayim. So in the customs like this, not Chanukah, on Rosh Chodesh and Yom Tiv and Chol Hamoed, here's where you say, like on Shabbos, we say the Shir Shayom before Kriya. Ve'ein Oimim Beis Yaakov, we don't say the Beis Yaakov at all, if anyone's ever wondering. On Rosh Chodesh, we add to that Baruch Nafshi, which is the special prayer we say for Rosh Chodesh. After Shir Shayom, we say the mourner's Kaddish, and we take out the Sefer Torah and we read for Rosh Chodesh or Chol Hamoed or whatever the reading is. Then we say Kaddish on the Sefer Torah, and afterwards we say Ashrei Volitzion. We bring the Sefer Torah in to the Heichel, meaning into the Or HaKodesh, and afterwards the Shliach Sibur on Rosh Chodesh, he says a few verses, and afterwards we say again a Chatzi Kaddish. And when we're davening Tfilas Musaf, and we daven Tfilas Musaf, okay. Now he says, Umasir matfilim Rosh Chodesh koydem HaKaddish, and we take off the tefillin before the Kaddish, before Shemona Esrei. Other minhagim are, they say Kaddish, by Sfardim, they say Kaddish, and then they take off the tefillin. By Chabad, we say Kaddish right before Shemona Esrei. It means, when do you say the Kaddish? Chabad says the Hachatzi Kaddish right before we start Amidah. Other customs are, I'm just going to put it in a chart for next week so everyone sees their customs. Okay, Rosh Chodesh in Chabad, we say the Kaddish before the Musaf. Chanukah, we read 3 people. Afterwards, we say Kaddish of the Kriya. We say Ashrei Volitzion, and then we say the Kaddish Shalom. Why? Because there's no Musaf. So we complete really the Shachris. And then we bring in the Sefer Torah, and then we say Beis Yaakov, and then we say Shir Shayom. So in Chanukah, we don't say Shir Shayom before. Seemingly, from what I understand, basically what they're saying over here, and thank you all for bearing with me in Minhag Chabad, for those who are not part of the Chabad Minhag, but it shows you the different varieties. From here we see clearly that the Chabad custom is, maybe versus others that don't, is that the Shir Shayom, question is if the song that the Levites sang in the Beis HaMikdash, they sang it during the Talmud, during the morning sacrifice. So therefore it makes sense, according to Chabad, to say the Shir Shayom before Musaf. If I'm not mistaken, I have to check again, but I think in Nusach Ashkenaz and Sfard say the Shir Shayom after Musaf. I think so. Okay. Now that we got, so that basically covers the davening part. Any questions before we continue? Because we kind of completed the davening part now.
Rabbi, quick thing. I know you said before that the reason we don't wear tefillin on Rosh Chodesh is a sign of Keter.
Yeah.
That we said, but isn't there another idea that it's considered to be like a Yom Tov and it's like an oath, like just similar to Yom Tov, or we don't?
Yes, that would also be why some Ashkenazim who don't have the Nusach to say Keser. Is your Nusach Ashkenaz, Ilan?
No, I daven Nusach Sfard, or yeah.
Yes, even I think I've been when I was growing up as a child, we had some people from Ashkenazi community that davened with us. They kept it filling on for Musaf, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know, they weren't rabbis. I don't know if that, but I'm not sure everyone takes their tefillin off. And that would be the reason if you didn't say Keser. But in Chabad, for instance, one of the first things a bar mitzvah boy learns before you learn even the basics of laws is that when you say Keser, cover your tefillin. If you're wearing tefillin, sometimes you're behind. You should cover your tefillin, so you shouldn't have a Keser when you say Keser. But what you're saying is also also makes sense. Yes, Aaron.
In my shul, I believe, Musaf comes and we take off our tefillin before they even give us like half a minute to unwrap.
In your shul is in Ashkenaz or Sfard?
Ashkenaz 100%.
Yeah, so I'm saying, I think the same people that would wear tefillin during Musaf are the same people that would wear tefillin according to their custom on Chol Hamoed.
So on Holomoid,
In your
we
shul,
don't
you
wear
don't wear,
tefillin.
you do not wear, right? So I want to
Right.
check. Let me put together all that information, and so we could look it out on a piece of paper next week about the different customs because we didn't cover all the customs. We just covered what the Kitzur says. Basically, when the Kitzur says basically. It doesn't go into details how we go into Musaf. In Chabad, it's very detailed, like I said. So if you're putting on two pairs of tefillin, it gets complicated because the Rebbein times. The preferably is both Rashi and Rebbein times should be put on before Musaf. But there's various customs. Again, in other shuls, the Chatzi Kaddish is said after Kriya and not said before the Musaf. I'm trying to see. It seems like what he says over here is that we have. So the Maitzim Sefer Torah. Uh, um, so yeah, so in Chabad we say the Kaddish on the Sefer Torah. We say Asher Volet Zion. Then we bring in the Sefer Torah into the Ark because Chabad keeps the Sefer Torah in the Ark out of the Ark until others bring it right after Hagba. Chabad keep it until after Uvalet Zion. And afterwards we say again before Musaf we say the Chatzi Kaddish again. Others say the Chatzi Kaddish only once after the Kriya, and they don't say another Chatzi Kaddish before Musaf. I want to actually, for everyone's sake, because we have different people davening different nuschos, whether here on Zoom or on YouTube, so everyone could see their minhag. I'll bring it up next week and make a chart so everyone could see what their custom should be about all these things, because we have a lot of things we're covering. We're covering about the blessings. When do we, basic nusach Sfard is that we don't make a bracha for halal and a half a halal. Nusach Ashkenaz is they do, and then we have the different situations of when you would say a bracha if you're joining the minyan in between. Then we have the Rif's opinion that says that only the Chazan says, seemingly without a minyan there is no bracha. Then you have the Chabad, which is the two kind of versions of Chabad, which is if you're with a minyan, let the Chazan say the bracha, but if you're without a minyan, you would make your own bracha, and then the Rebbe says that to say for minhagim, that nevertheless, even with a minyan, you should say the bracha. Okay, and then we have the different how we finish off after halal, the post halal davenings of the Ashri V'Altzin, and when do we say Kaddish, etc. So it's just so everyone should be familiar when you're davening with your minyan to know what's going on. But usually, if you're davening with your minyan, the problem is when you're davening with another minyan. When you're davening with your minyan, you grew up with that, you know your customs. But if you're sometimes in another shul and you're not realizing what's going on, you should be familiar with other people's customs as well. Okay. Again, any questions before we continue on this? All right, let's go forward. Rosh Chodesh Asher B'Tanis B'Hesed. Rosh Chodesh is like Elon was saying, it's a kind of a holiday, and therefore we do not fast and we do not eulogize on Rosh Chodesh. There's a concept of saying Tziddik Adin, which is a prayer for the word Tziddik is for justification of judgment. That's not a thing that we say on the Rosh Chodesh again because it's being a holiday. He says, look in Shulchan Aruch Siman Tav Chaf, and to Rizav Magen Avram Farshim, he gives various places to find reference for that. He says this is a prayer expressing acceptance of the divine judgment. So it's kind of a tachnun, and we don't say it in Rosh Chodesh. Okay, this completes the laws of Rosh Chodesh, of the actual day of Rosh Chodesh. Now we're going to go into the laws of Kiddush Levanah. We all know the custom is that we wait the different customs. Again, we get a variety of customs. When do we bless the new moon? Means so no one does it the first 3 days. There are those who will do it after 3 days. The Kabbalistic minyan is to wait a full week. So have at least 8 going into 8th day. We don't bless before there's a Shabbos in between, a full week at least. And also the idea is to try to do it on a Shabbos, on a Motzei Shabbos, when you're in your Shabbos garment. So like those who now in the month of Av, we don't, because of mourning, everyone agrees that we don't bless the new moon before Tisha B'Av. And therefore the custom is we bless Motzei Tisha B'Av, the new moon. Okay. We have to sanctify the moon every month. You have to wait till it's complete night. Don't do it in the evening, the dusk. The idea is to sanctify the new moon when you could see the light of the moon on the ground and take joy in its light. So you're blessing for something that you're benefiting from. When it's dusk, it's not dark enough for you to benefit from the light of the moon. But if it's covered in clouds, and this is when it gets tricky. If you're living in a place like Eretz Yisrael, even in a winter, it's very, very rarely in Eretz Yisrael you can't make Kiddush Levanah. It could happen, but usually Eretz Yisrael doesn't rain, But if you live in Seattle, Seattle could be a place where those who live in Seattle will know that you could go months without seeing the sky, right? It's overcast over and over again. And then you can have other places where it's cloudy. So if it's cloudy, so you can't sanctify, you have to take joy of the light. You can't sanctify it when it's cloudy. Unless it's really light clouds and you could see the sun, the moon shining through the clouds. What happens if you started to make the Kiddush Levanah sanctifying the moon, but as it happens, right, the clouds move and the clouds cover the middle. You complete it. You already started. But everyone knows, right? Sometimes you see literally the moon is in a circle, and within 3 seconds the clouds are going to move and cover it. So that he says over here, I've seen people be lenient in this, but he says over here, if you see that the clouds are about to cover it, and clearly you're not going to be able to complete the blessing, it didn't happen by chance, then you can't just jump in on that second. All right. So you have to. So the idea is, I just want to say, we'll finish off with this law, and then I'll say a quick story. He brings the Gemara Sanhedrin, the Mishnah Brura about unless the clouds are thin, and he says the Radvaz. Okay, we're going to continue these laws next week. I just want to say a story. It's brought so the idea is that you're not allowed to make the blessing of the new moon when the clouds are out. So we could say the story for Saturday night, but we'll say it now. The Holy Rebbe, the Remer Pamashlan, we mentioned him many times in our stories, asked a question. He said, how did they do the sanctification of the new moon when Moshe when they were in the desert? What's the question? We just read, you're not allowed to bless the new moon when the clouds are covering. The Jewish people were in a boxed cloud. The cloud was from all 6 sides. The cloud, they were totally 5 sides, and they had the extra cloud. They were totally boxed in by clouds. So they never saw, which is actually kind of depressing if you think of it. They never saw the stars and the moon throughout the time they were in the desert, because they're always closed they're closed up in the cloud. So how did they bless the new moon? We can't assume that for 40 years Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do the mitzvah of blessing the new moon. So when Remer Pamashlan told the story, he said the story in a day that you were wanting the Chassidim. He and the Chassidim wanted to bless the new moon, but it was cloudy. So he was telling the story when it was cloudy. You'll hear why he was telling the story. So Remer Pamashlan reached into his pocket and he took out a handkerchief and he started to wave the handkerchief, and he said Moshe Rabbeinu waved his handkerchief, which goes to show Moshe had a handkerchief. He waved his handkerchief, and the clouds opened up so they could say the blessing on the new moon. As the Rebbe, the Tzaddik, Reb Meir Pamashlan, was waving his handkerchief, telling the story, the same thing happened. The clouds opened up, and the Chassidim were able to bless the new moon. In Parshas Vayetze, I think it was 1951. Again, it's winter. Vayetze is the winter. And the Rebbe would like to bless the new moon on Motzei Shabbos. So Vayetze makes sense, should be, I guess, going into Kislev. And they came to tell the Rebbe that they can't bless the new moon because the clouds are out. There's no moon. They call it there's no moon. So the Rebbe said the story then of Remer Pamashlan. And the Rebbe says, is there anyone here today that could take out their handkerchief and wave it and make the clouds go away? The Rebbe just said that. And the Rebbe says, whatever. The Rebbe said, I'm going to walk my mother home, and then we're going to bench the new moon. And as the Rebbe left, the clouds opened up, and they were able to make a bracha on the new moon. So I want to wish everyone, Sipur Tzadikim, Medes Lanu La'ad. So I want to wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos Avarchim. We're coming to Shabbos Avarchim in the new moon. So it's appropriate to learn these laws. I'm starting now. Again, thank you, Rebecca, for pushing us to continue in these laws. La'ad Tov, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.